appreciate it. I'll tell you, I think everyone on this committee thinks that we should have a national director for tourism and travel. And I know that Senator Klobuchar, who I'm going to recognize next, author of Brand USA, of course, 10,000 lakes in Minnesota, lots of things. This, I said, it's a great committee. We all know all the wonderful things about our state. Senator Klobuchar, I'd like to recognize you, please.
Madam Chair, I just want to mention, 10,000 lakes in Minnesota. I think I mentioned last hearing 3 million lakes in Alaska.
Okay,
So
yes, I've heard about
Senator
this, and I think we should take this offline for our discussion. I will note your biggest street in Anchorage, or at least one of them, is called Minnesota Avenue.
That's very true. It's very true.
That's true. We have a lot of people going back and forth between our states. But with that, I want to thank our two witnesses from beautiful places that I have visited, spent some time in, and I want to first of all, just start out, I know a lot of people have mentioned the Brand USA, and thank you to the chairwoman for her leadership on that and so many other things. But the Brand USA is a bill that Senator Blunt and I have long championed, and in March, we were able to restore funding to Brand USA. Mr. Dean, I know you've talked about the importance of destinations and evening the playing field. Can you talk about how important it is to keep this going? Because we have some places that are big destinations that everyone can afford their own public relations and strategies and ads, but some can't. And it's important to have a national strategy when it comes to Brand USA. Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Senator. I think you've underscored to me one of the most important and perhaps under-recognized benefits of Brand USA. We can certainly point to the efficiency, the return on investment. There's no question our nation is getting a great return on its investment through Brand USA. But one of the greatest benefits is how Brand USA allows smaller communities, rural communities, regions that couldn't, even with the budget, promote themselves around the world. And we certainly see that in Puerto Rico. I think to some of the recent international visits that we were able to attract with influencers and media coming to help us tell the story of the recovery in Puerto Rico. They're going to the coffee haciendas in Utuado and at Juntas. You might never know they existed if you were an international visitor, but Brand USA allows us to benefit our industry and our coffee farmers that way. They allow us to showcase communities like Cabo Rojo on the West Coast and Ponce, the glorious city on the South Coast. These are unique destinations within the island that offer an extraordinary opportunity for to experience the rich, vibrant culture, to live Boricua, as we like to say. And we simply could not do that even with a substantial increase in our budget. What Brand USA allows us to do for all of us is to tell our stories as part of those united stories and showcase ourselves to the global travelers that many of us wouldn't be able to reach otherwise. So beyond the economic impact, which is substantial and clearly proven over and over again, I think their ability to level that playing field, allowing rural communities, second-tier and third-tier cities that wouldn't otherwise compete to be able to accomplish that.
Now, of course, you're challenging me with all the mention of places in Puerto Rico, which, as I've said, I've enjoyed. Mr. Hornbuckle is going to want to mention every place in Nevada,
I promise.
Which I have probably visited. And of course, you're just getting me going to want to mention Duluth and Lanesboro, and in addition to the Mall of America and many, many great places in my own state. I want to turn to something else, and that is the wait times that we're seeing, long visa wait times as we return to international travel. And I've appreciated some of the work that's been done recently to make it easier to travel internationally. Right now, inbound travelers can expect to wait 702 days in Guadalajara, 354 days out of Brazil, 643 days out of Colombia, and other things. And these are, of course, the international travelers, as we all know, bring in, a lot of funds, and that means good for our jobs and good for our businesses in the U.S. I know the administration is focused on increasing visa processing capacity by 40% in the top countries that require a visitor visa, including Brazil and India. Either Mr. Hornbuckle, maybe you can answer this. Do you see Congress as playing a role in helping to reduce wait times and increasing processing capacities? And do you think that would be helpful?
Unequivocally, yes, Senator. Thank you for the question. look, we just experienced July 4th in Las Vegas. Not only wait time for visa, but once you got here to get through the process, once you landed, was another 2.5 hours. And so welcome to Las Vegas, welcome to America. Please stand in this line for 2.5 hours. And so obviously anything and everything that can be done, not only to continue to fund, because resources are essentially what's behind this, but to create workplace environments where training is effective and appropriate, where people want to go to work. We've all gone through TSA. It's not a pleasant experience for the consumer, probably for most of the employees. And so to the extent we can put technology at play, whether it's in pre-visa in some of these particularly foreign countries, we have an environment. You may know we operate a couple properties in Macau, and before the ongoing COVID crisis and closed down, many of those jurisdictions in mainland China were putting automated visas through. And so it was simple as getting something on your phone. You had pre-qualified, and you literally went through a process. Technology's impacted and helped our business. We now have mobile check-in, something that COVID kind of forced. And with the reality of that, it's 25% of the people who come to one of our resorts never touch the front desk. They then use that device for other ways around the resorts. And ultimately, it gives us the connectivity to those people for marketing to hopefully we have them return to us. And so the essence and the idea that we could start at home, because trip does start at home. The moment you decide to go, what is that process? And ultimately elevate a focus on all of it would be just something that's desperately needed at this point. I think it's been mentioned a couple times, but 700 days for a visa is not acceptable. It's just not. And so.
Exactly. And just last here quickly, I assume workforce shortage as well as we look towards immigration reform, doing something here to make sure we have workers in these jobs would also be helpful in travel and tourism.
Without a doubt, again, I mentioned a number earlier, we employ about 62,000 people. We have had in Las Vegas alone 5,000 job openings since we came out of the COVID pandemic. We stabled up the workforce pretty quickly, but now we've hit a plateau, and we've been sitting on a number like that for better part of a year. It's a couple things. Yes, it's economics. It's always economics at core, but there is a whole new mindset around work-life balance. People in our industry work hard. They work long hours. They work mostly when people don't want to work, weekends, nights, holidays. And so training, getting people in, I will tell you my story. I literally was a busboy who made it to CEO. This industry has a lot to offer. And to the extent we can get people in programs for training, we do, I think, a fairly good job both in the company and throughout some of our industries to do that. But we just need more help. We need more support and, frankly, more resource to put people into effective training programs that can live and lead to lifelong careers.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much to both of you, and mostly thank you, Senator Rosen, for your incredible leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar.